first thing to note is that this is being webcast, so as well as those people in the public gallery, I'd like to welcome anybody watching online or indeed watching on the recording when it gets posted onto YouTube at some future point. We're not expecting a fire drill today, so if an alarm goes off, it's a real thing. And we'll need to evacuate through the main lobby, out the main doors and down the ramp to the towards the cathedral and assemble down there. If you're at home and the alarm goes off, you don't need to do anything. Have we got any apologies for absence and substitution, Amy?
Yes, so we've received apologies from Councillor Calvin Blake, and we've got Councillor Dudd as substitute, and we've received apologies from Councillor Ralston with Councillor Stafford Townsend as substitute. And I've just realised I didn't do the usual round of introductions, so I shall flip back and do that now. So I'm Councillor Andrew Brown and I chair the Economy and Skills Policy Committee, and I'll go round.
My name's Amy Rodwell and I'm Policy Committee Officer.
Good afternoon, my name is Alex Hearn, I'm the Director of Economy of Place at the Council.
Good afternoon, Anita Secreto, Head of Economic Development.
Jason Thorne, Service Manager for City Centre and High Streets.
Hello, Eric Dougal, Harbour Estate Manager.
Paula O'Rourke, Councillor for Clifton.
Jenny Bartle, Vice Chair.
Annie Stafford, that work? Hello, that is working. Annie Stafford Townsend, Councillor for Central Ward.
Fabian Breckles, Councillor for St George Troopers Hill.
Councillor Tom Renard, Labour Councillor for Horfield Ward.
Kai Dodd, Councillor for Southmead.
So, Mark Weston, a councillor for Henbury and Brentry, and wondering why someone seems to have eaten the microphone. Yeah, what did the Labour Party do here? I mean,
so full councils are very long affairs, and sometimes people get peckish.
Sorry, I'm Ben Hegarty, Finance Business Partner for Growth and Regeneration.
And I'm John Smith, Interim Executive Director for Growth and Regen.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, are there any declarations of interest? No, thank you. Minutes of the previous meeting. So we have two sets of minutes to declare. My computer is playing up, but so we have got the minutes from the meeting on the 4th of November 2024. First of all, is there any comments on the accuracy of these or completeness of these minutes? No? Okay, in which case, can I have a seconder to approve those minutes?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay. Can we, subject to that amendment, seconder? Jenny, are you having to second? Okay, so we can note those as approved. We also have the minutes for the previous meeting, which was held in September. I can't find them.
Yeah, so it's on the 30th of September.
Oh. Okay, so those were held over from the previous meeting because there was a query about that Councillor Wells raised with regards to an addition to be made to those minutes. That change has been made. The details were circulated to all members. So I note your seconding of that, Councillor Breckles, and we shall note those as being approved. So that brings us on to Chair's announcements. So I've got a few items that I wanted to share with the committee before we go on to public forum. First was that there has been no officer executive decisions to report since the previous meeting. So that's that. I note in the public forum there are comments around the governance of the harbour. Now, I know from discussions with committee members that they feel that some members don't feel they've had they have deep enough knowledge in this area that they could do with additional briefings, and that's something that I'm going to be working to address. I think there are also broader questions around the governance of the harbour or the new governance arrangements and whether they will need tweaked in due course. And that's something that I want to review, but you know, once we've had an opportunity to work through the current system for maybe sort of the first year or so. So that's something that's on my mind, and I'm sure will come up again. But you know, we will be ensuring that members of Economy and Skills have an overview of harbour ahead of any key decisions that they have to make with regards to the harbour strategy. And a couple of things I wanted to summarise from our work programme setting. First is that we have agreed to do a task and finish exercise on support for our high streets. So that will be getting set up in due course. And we've also had a request for, we've also agreed that there'll be informal briefings and discussions around the issues on delivering the housing that we need, along with the associated infrastructure, for example, healthcare for new and existing residents. And then following those briefings and discussions, we'll consider which ways forward there might be open to us as a committee and as a council as well in developing policy and strategies to deal with that. So those are the things that I wanted to raise. I noticed that Councillor Stafford Townsend indicated something in response. That they wanted to say something in response.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say, because I'm obviously on the Harbour Committee alongside yourself and a couple, I think, and Kai as well. I know that it's been quite useful for those councillors who don't represent anything with the harbour in it to go on one of the boat tours with the harbour master, and also some of the ferry companies. We went on one just ahead of the last harbour committee, and the ferry companies have offered to take members of this committee on a tour as well. Maybe it's quite a useful thing that we could take them up on.
Absolutely. That's certainly something that could be useful. So thanks for that. We'll see what we can do. Okay, so next we have a public forum. So we've had 10 public forum questions in from 4 people and 2 public forum statements. We have up to half an hour for public forum, he says, getting his watch off. I shall check first if people have had a chance to read the responses provided, and then give opportunities for supplementaries. For those people who have submitted 2 or more questions, they're allowed up to 2 supplementary questions as well. And I am going to work off a list that I have of people that I know are going to be attending today. So questions 2, 3 and 4 have been submitted by Ben Ewing, who I can see in the gallery. Ben, I assume you've seen the responses. Can I have the first of your supplementaries, please?
Sure, yes. So, as you guys are economy and skills, I'm intending to ask 2 skills supplementary questions and 2 about fees, which I guess is economy. The first one, in my public statement, has been included a PDF of the harbour management and governance. But also on the reverse side of that was also the harbour staffing. I have put a few on your seats, so if you've got a page there, you should be able to see them.
Thanks, Ben.
Acknowledge that you're aware that you need to brief this committee and chair, and thank you very much for that. I just wanted to ask, really, have this committee ever seen, bear in mind that you are the skills under the harbour as you're under your remit, have you ever seen this flow chart, particularly both sides? I've highlighted a couple of things on there, the head of service, and I believe the harbour master, head of service is long-term sick, and the harbour master, I believe, is stepping down this week. And then on the return, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 current vacancies. So has maybe a show of hands? Has anyone on this committee with the harbour under seen this before? Okay, there's three out of the room.
Okay, have you got a second supplementary, Ben?
Yes, please. So it's about the same governance. That's actually the one that was included in the statement. You've talked about reviewing this. Is it fair and reasonable to expect that all of the link to the governance and the operation of the harbour goes through an hourglass funnel through one person, which is the harbour master? Or would there be a better way of having that structure?
Thank you for that. As the Chair said, the intention is to review this once it's been up and running. The governance design of the committee and the harbour group, and indeed of the way that the team works, has been designed in accordance with legal advice around complying with relevant harbour legislation. So we're very happy to review it and look at how it works, but it will have to be done in accordance with that.
Okay, thank you. Right, so I have no indication that the other questioners are attending. However, I note that, Ben, you habitually, when you're here, speak on behalf of Phoebe Arrowsmith-Brown. Have you got supplementaries to her questions?
If that's okay with you, Chair, yes, please. We've obviously got 2 young children, so I'm sure they share this role. So the second ones then are about sort of the fees and charges. So in the paper that I've also put on your some of your chairs, you can see a quality impact statement. This was for the original fees and charges increase, which my fees and charges for the harbour went up above 200%. On the second page of that, it says there is no equalities impact for a 200% increase. But I'd just like to highlight that on the 7% increase that you're proposing that's going at the moment, there's a really good EQI which says that it does have an impact on the harbour users and myself, and gives us more of a balanced view. Similarly, with the St Nick's Market that you're looking at today, has got a really detailed EQI, and I'm just really concerned that clearly you guys are on this, right, and it's good, but we're here because that equalities impact assessment isn't really, just misses the fact that there's any person in the harbour paying now 200 and to be 7% compacting impact. So the question is, can we look again at this 200% increase with no impact on any boat owner, myself, my family, in light that now you are evaluating the impact correctly?
Eric?
Yeah. Hi, Ben. My understanding was that the EQIA had been refreshed for this round of fees and charges uplifts. So I think that the information and the reference to the fee increases this time have been made in that EQIA.
So I appreciate that this EQIA, which is for the 7%, is good, right? It seems like you're balanced and you've gone around the right course, but the one that had the 200% increase had no information at all, and that's the foundation why pretty much every single boat owner is furious, and why you're getting so much backlash from a 7%, which if you had a structured increase over a period of time, people would agree to.
Okay, thanks, Ben. I don't think we can reopen the previous decisions that were made as a committee or as a council at this stage. I think as chair of this body and as chair of the Harbour Committee as well, my determination is that we, going forward, that we do things in a transparent way that engages with you and with other users around the harbour through the stakeholder channels and through the Harbour Committee and your representations there, and indeed here. Do you have a second supplementary?
I do, and perhaps it's on the same lick of a concern that maybe rogue directors are still acting as the previous administration. We had a meeting with the Director of Place, and she signed both the current EQIA and the previous EQIA, and we asked the direct question to her if she knew before she signed the previous EQIA that there were boaters living aboard, and she said she did. And they said they did. So, is there a rogue officer operating at the inside of this committee and the Harbour Committee?
I'm not going to public comment on that, Ben. Moving on, you have submitted a statement. Do you want to speak briefly to that statement? Members of the committee will have seen it and will have read it, so you don't necessarily need to read it out word for word, but if you want to briefly summarise, that'd be, this is your opportunity.
So I believe that the two statements I submitted, one was the harbour management and governance.
Sorry, I'm just asking you to make a statement to yours.
No, that's fine. I think my questions are open. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Right, moving on then, we have the next item on the agenda is the St Nicholas fees, market fees and charges paper. So this is a paper to consider proposals with regards to achieving financial sustainability in St Nicholas Market. It's noted on my list as a non-key decision. I thought this was a key decision.
So it's not above the threshold for a key decision, but it still is a decision to be taken by this committee.
Okay. This report includes an exempt appendix, which members will have had both on modern.gov and by email, circulated by email earlier. That's been circulated. In the event that any member wishes to raise a matter specifically in relation to the exempt information, it will be necessary for the committee to move into exempt session. So I'd like for the session to be in public as far as possible. You have had a redacted version of the report, of that exempt report. So if you can, any questions or comments you have on that exempt report, where possible, if you can, if you could bear in mind the redactions. If you do want to cover any of the exempt information, we'll have to go into exempt session. Okay, so the first, so this is being presented by Jason. So over to you, Jason.
Okay, thank you. So the title of the report is Financial Sustainability for St Nicholas Market. Obviously, St Nicholas Market's been in operation since 1743, based in the heart of the old city. There are 63 independent traders that trade from the indoor spaces, and the indoor spaces is within 3 different parts of the estate. So you've got the Exchange Hall, the Glass Arcade and the Covered Market. Obviously a range of goods and services provided. They provide over 130 jobs, so really important to the economy of the city. And then a further 50 traders trade throughout the week in outdoor spaces on Corn Street and Wine Street. So our indoor spaces generally very well occupied. In fact, we only have 1 vacant unit currently that we are advertising. So we have our occupancy rate of 98%, which against the national average, really good picture. So the national average for indoor markets is 78%. And we have a waiting list for indoor traders at the moment that we started in July. We've got 40 traders on that list. So approximately half of our traders have been in occupation at St Nick's for over 10 years, with many in place for over 20. And again, they're attracted there by the affordability and the flexibility that we offer with market licenses. Now, we have, since COVID, there's been a bit of a change in approach to outdoor markets because you found that more traditional market traders haven't returned since COVID. They found other things to do. So from Monday to Thursday, we've made those general market days, and that's a change that we made back in the summer. So we have mixed markets, food, produce, street food, jewellery, etc., Monday to Thursday, and then street food on Tuesday, Friday. And then the most popular market is our Indies market, which is craft, clothing, jewellery on a Friday and Saturday, and they're generally really well occupied. I'm moving on to paragraph 9, which is about the current revenue budget. So the current revenue budget in 24-25 is 591,000. What I would say there is the staffing cost there of 436,000. Bear in mind we are a 12-hour-a-day operation, 6 days a week. We become 7 days a week in the run-up to Christmas. And all of the costs for staff in that table at 9 include pension and NI. We've invested in some capital improvements over the last few years, so new CCTV or upgraded CCTV, trade on public Wi-Fi, wayfinding, there was electrical rewiring that took place, and most recently the glass arcade roof was recapped. And then in late September we opened 3 new units within the covered market aimed at the food and hospitality sector. In terms of the current budget, we have an income target of 746,000. In this current financial year, we are set not to achieve that target by the tune of around 100,000. And then it's anticipated next financial year that 2% will be added to that target, taking the overall target to 761,000, meaning that unless we take some action, we'll have a deficit of 115,000 next financial year. At Table 13 shows the weekly and daily stall charges per business and per stall within the indoor spaces. You can see there's a big disparity between what we charge in the glass arcade, which is the most kind of visited part of the market, and what is charged in other parts of the market, particularly in the exchange hall and the covered market. And then you will see that there's also a disparity between the glass arcade and what we even charge on our street food market, which is £42 a day. So there are some real important drivers for change. We need some fairness, transparency across the market. We want to be able to improve and invest in the market going forward. We really want to see the market as more of an incubator, business incubator, where people come start their business and then maybe take on other business premises in the city. And we've got some good examples of where that has happened previously. At the moment, we don't have any information on the income generated by those traders. And the council's taken this approach in other parts of its estate with parks, harbour, etc. And the current fee structure doesn't allow us to cover our income shortfall. So to help us and to guide us, we commissioned Marketplace, who are nationally recognised experts in this field, and they've provided us with a number of recommendations that you're able to read in the report that you've been provided with. And they've considered the approach taken within other local authorities, and as I just mentioned, we've taken into account what happens in other parts of the council here in terms of a turnover model as well. So the options are set out at paragraph 22 in the table. So in terms of immediate things we could do that would start from April next year, there's a 2% increase to all traders, 5% and a 10%. The recommendation today is that you go with the 5% increase. And then the other recommendation is consulting with St Nicholas Market traders on the potential move to a turnover model. And there are different options set out in the table, and they cover a 10% of turnover, 15%, 17%. And we could also look at applying the turnover model to all traders across the whole market, but there are some concerns from our consultants about doing that because the cost of related IT systems, the EPOS may outweigh the actual benefit of doing so. That's it from me, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jason. So before we go into the debate or opportunity for questions and comments from members, I'm just going to highlight what, or reiterate what we're being asked to approve. So there are, the first recommendation is to approve a 5% increase to be introduced from Q1 25-26 next year. That's option A2 from the table. And then the second recommendation is to authorise the Executive Director of Growth and Regen, John, in consultation with myself, to take all steps required to proceed to consult with the St Nick's Markets traders on options to review the fee structures, including the potential to introduce a turnover model. So that's the key second recommendation of this report, and that would be looking at consulting on the various options outlined B1 through to B1, B2, B3 and C1. And finally, it's to note that a further report would then be brought back to committee to take into account the outcome of the consultation and assessment of implications and seek a decision on future fee structure for the market. So that's what we're being asked to look at today. I'd like to thank Jason and Anissa and the team for their work on this paper. It's gone through a lot. It's gone through a lot of work and redraft ahead of getting here to committee. So I'd like to thank you for that, and for for getting to a paper that presents these options in the way it does, and allows us, hopefully, subject to the committee, to go out to consultation. So, that said, I can see Fabian's hand right up, and then Annie's, so I'll start with Fabian.
Thank you, Chair. Managed to, if I can just get my cover. I've got a few questions I would like to ask, please. First of all, what engagement have you had so far with traders and market stall holders? Okay, and then I'll ask them in turn, yeah.
So there's been no engagement as such to inform where we've got to today, but they've been communicated with, and they're aware that committee are meeting with this, and then we would be starting any formal consultation subject to today's decision in January.
Can I just go quick? So, what's the strategy being adopted by other councils with markets? Do they make their markets pay for themselves, or do they effectively subsidise them on the grounds that they're bringing money into the economy or into the local economy?
So I don't believe there's a deliberate strategy to subsidise them, along with many of our other activities as a council.
That's not quite what I was suggesting. It's, we've got, they're not at the moment, it's not at the moment, the fees we're charging don't at the moment cover the costs. So, what I was sort of asking was, do the fees that the other markets that that are referred to in the report, do those fees cover the costs of those markets or not?
Outside of Bristol.
Outside of Bristol. So the Manchester, all the other ones that are listed and named, do the fees and the service charges and all of those things, do they cover the costs of running those markets? Or not? And if not, why not? Is there, that's sort of what strategies have other markets got? Is it, if everyone's going on looking to make them, pay for themselves, and that's the common policy across all councils with their own market stalls, markets, then fair enough, but I'd like to know.
So I can defer to colleagues if they do know the answer to that, but what I do know from the redacted annex to this paper, the fees that Bristol is currently charging as a look like they are not as high as some other markets in other parts of the country. I cannot comment, however, whether, for example, Manchester City Council insists that their market service covers its costs or not.
I think it might be worth asking, trying to find out, even if it has to be on another redacted paper, at a later committee. I just think it would be worth knowing so that we can actually see the context of what we're doing and what we're proposing to look at with our fees for Bristol's markets compared to what other cities and towns are doing with their markets. I just think we need to know how they're approaching it.
I do think there's some useful contextual information in both in the cover report and in the annex as well about the fee structure at Bristol compared with other markets in the country, as well as the fee structure within our own markets. I think there's some really useful contextual information in there.
Okay. The last question I have is, with the turnover model, how much detail would traders be expected to provide? Because obviously you're talking about having EPOS machines that the council would have to buy. How much, would that sort of cover, name a person, card they used, what they bought, or would it simply be, how much a trader has made in a day, or
the finer detail of that would need to be worked out, but we'd certainly be able to look at the turnover of each business within the market, and we need to consult with the traders on the level of detail that would be collected.
Okay, thanks, Fabian. Annie.
I need to get really uncomfortably close to this mic, I think you can hear me. Well, this one does it. Oh, that's louder. Oh, that's louder. But it has to have a thingy. There we go. Good. Okay, thank you. Firstly, I love the sort of the desire to sort of support an ecology around the market stalls and the support structure. So I was wondering what kind of considerations and investigations have you made into looking and utilising the entire building, not just the ground floor? Because there's a lot of unused space upstairs, which would be really good, to my mind, used if it could be used for workshop space, additional market space, a whole range of feeding streams into the market and the outdoor market as well as actually generating more income for the market as a whole. So what sorts of investigations have you done?
So the team work from the market, and so I've had the benefit of exploring the building. And you're right, certainly on the upper levels there's underutilised space. I think we're aware that it's a very old building. Part of it is a Grade 1 listed building, and it would require a significant amount of investment. We have recently commissioned a survey to understand the costs associated with bringing the building into use. That's not complete yet, but we're very mindful of it. I suppose what I would say is that if there is an opportunity to make further investment, and including substantial investment to bring more of it into use, clearly there would need to be a business case to that, and that part of that business case is whether any investment can be, for example, paid off if it's not grant funding through the income. So it's important that capital investment is seen alongside how well the market performs financially, as well as the role it plays in the ecology of the city economy.
Thanks. And when do you anticipate that piece of work to be concluded?
I don't know the answer to that, but I can find out. But I'm very happy to provide that information in writing if need be. But it has been commissioned.
Okay, thank you. I will pass for the moment, but I have other questions, I'm sure.
Can I just ask a follow-up on that? Because this is something that's on my list. I paid a visit to the market, I think it was last week. I know all the weeks are blurring into one at the moment, but and I saw upstairs, and yeah, it's, there is opportunity, but there is also an associated cost, or there would be an associated cost with realising that opportunity.
is that a piece of work that's been driven that, as and when came to any key decisions, would that come to this committee or would that be strategy and resources?
Happy to take that away, but as you know, the council is a significant property owner in the city, and within its portfolio it has a number of heritage buildings which are typically very complicated to invest in and probably need investment. So it could inform future decisions by strategy and resources, but if there's useful information in there, I'm quite happy to see how it could be considered if we come back following the recommendations today or through some alternative means for this committee.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Kai.
Yeah, thank you. Just got a few points. Firstly, I just want to say, the market is a fantastic place. And I think sometimes with consultants' reports, they can often tend towards, the suggestion that we need to go up market. But I think we need to do our best to try and maintain the character of the market as much as possible. In the report, it's mentioned a few times this investment question. So in terms of drivers for change, investments are a big issue in the report. So I just wondered, when you go out to consult, I think it might be an error not to consult on with traders what they want to see in terms of investment. And also, I think that needs to be, you need more meat on the bones. So if you're saying we're going to introduce this massive change, we're going to a turnover model, and it's about investment, and we've got no plan to show them in terms of what the additional income is going to deliver, I think that potentially could be an error. Also, I think you obviously it's mentioned a lot about the market being an incubator, and I think that might be the case for some of the businesses that they go there, they want to be a successful business, grow, move on. But there are many traders there that are sole traders. They're just happy, to do their thing, make a living from it, and they're happy with that. They don't want to get any bigger. So I just think, in terms of the language of the consultation, you might need to think about how you use that. The report also mentions night markets. Now that's the most popular event during the year when we have a night market there, and I've been calling for this for years, but I don't know why it's still just a special occasion that we have a night market. So I'd like to see a trial for maybe 6 months where the market's open on the evening, maybe Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evening, and those stall holders that want to trade can trade in the evening. Obviously, it's not every trader is going to want to do it, but there will be some, and I think it'll be fantastic if we can do that on a more permanent footing, maybe, as I say, as a trial to begin with, just to see how it goes. And I was also there recently to see the new Bristol Blitz World War II experience that's happening in the basement, and it's really a fantastic offer there. And the guy who runs it has got a real vision for that experience. And just like to say, I'm fully supportive of what he's trying to do down there. I think we need to try and, if we can, to get that on a more fuller footing, because I think it's a bit of a temporary thing going on at the moment, but I think there's a real opportunity with that around tourism and education, that kind of thing as well. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll come back on the first 2 points and then I'll hand over to Jason for night markets, if that's okay. So I think you raised an important point, and we've discussed this as well around planning for the consultation, that we make sure that we cover some of those opportunities for traders to feedback on how we can invest and how they see the market in the future, and in terms of any additional kind of income that we drive through some of this review of fees and charges, what they would like to see in terms of improvements, and whether there's any opportunity from other funding sources that we could bring in to the market as well. So it's really important that we get those views from the traders as well. So we're aware of using this opportunity really well to consult with them. Just on the incubation point, because Councillor Stafford Townsend raised it as well. So I think it's really important as well that we viewed our traders as business owners. Some of them are sole traders, but some of them have an opportunity to utilise some of our other business support offer. Some of our grants could move into bricks and mortar, move into kind of other areas of the city, and we want to make sure that we're offering that opportunity to traders as well, and make sure that we use the market in a really positive way in terms of economic development as a whole. So I think the incubation kind of space language is quite important to tie the market into the kind of economic development role that the market can operate. So bringing traders through in terms of test trading, and then helping businesses to grow and occupy shops or support through grants to kind of expand and grow in other areas of the city. So I think it's quite an important model that we need to consider as part of doing this work. But I really welcome that you've both raised that as well. Of course.
Point. Yeah, I think that's right. But I think in terms of the language we use in the consultation, we don't want those sole traders that are just happy to come in, do their day's work, and they don't want to get any bigger. I think we need to make sure the language is inclusive, and we say we still want you to be in the market to those people. So if we're just talking about people coming in, doing well for a few years and then moving on, I think it might feel like to those traders that they're not wanted in the market anymore.
I understand. Thank you.
Sorry, just on the point around night markets, we'd love to do more where it's resource capacity, and to pick up on the point you just made, not everybody wants to stay beyond the hours they've already done, but those kind of things need a lot of work from a safety kind of perspective as well. So yeah, keen to do more, and I think it's a question we should be asking during the consultation. What should our opening hours be going forward?
I think that's if that's something that can be rolled into the consultation, that's useful, because that will be useful data for, and if there is the opportunity at some point to do more in terms of night markets, or to have a trial of a more frequent night market, that's that could help inform that, I guess. I have got Jenny next on my list. Sorry, and so my list is currently Jenny, back to Annie, Mark, and then Paul.
Thanks. So I've got a few points. I think with the things that we can also roll into the consultation, it would be good to have something about length of tenure, because something that's quite unique about the market is that you can just pack up in a week. But consequently, that means that the store holders aren't able to invest in their shops. So I'd like to see that kind of wrapped in. I think there's also something about when we do the consultation with the potential swap to a percentage turnover model. I've always been cautious about this because, from the very start, I've been thinking how it could create perverse incentives. So the way we've set it up at the moment is, if you are a small company, you're going to pay a small amount. If you're a big company, you're going to pay a bigger amount. And one thing that we were worried about when we've had conversations about this before was that could end up chasing out the larger companies. So then we will lose our sort of big stalwarts potentially, because it's well, why would I stay here if I'm paying 15% of my my turnover? That could be the same amount as just being in a shop around the corner. And if that happens too much, then we will have fewer people in the market, and maybe we'll get those new businesses coming in. There is some amount of it's okay to have a bit of flux in who is occupying the market, but we don't want to go so far as to lose those anchor businesses, or what are currently functioning as anchor businesses. We don't want to actively drive people out or make it ridiculous for them to stay. So I think we need to be really cognizant of that, and we need to be quite direct in how we ask those businesses, like, if you end up paying this much, are you just going to leave? And then I guess the second half of that is also what do the smaller businesses want, those startup businesses? Would they prefer to just know at the start of the financial year what their outgoings are going to be for rent versus having to sort of plan everything to have a certain overhead on it, but then you don't know how much you're going to sell, but it doesn't matter how much you sell. Like, it's a very different way of planning a business. So I don't know whether those businesses would be happy with that. I don't know whether there's any education we would need to give them to make it easier to do a business that way, because, I mean, I don't know, that's not how I plan, but maybe it's really easy and it's just not a skill that a lot of people have. So those are my kind of main points.
Thank you. That was really useful, Councillor Bartle. I think clearly it's important that we have a good set of inclusive questions for the consultation exercise, and I think it will help tease out some of these issues. I would just observe that generally, well, certainly since the pandemic, which has accelerated this trend, that many retail landlords and retail tenants have moved towards a turnover model generally on the high street, where it was seen that prohibitively high rents with old-fashioned, I suppose, investment models was perverse, such that it was pricing tenants out of the high street. So actually, it is a general shift that's happening in hospitality and retail real estate, if that's what you could call the market. But we need to ask the right questions and get the good quality feedback that we can from the consultation exercise.
Thank you. Annie?
Thanks. Over here. Yeah, I think I've got a lot of questions about how the point of sale would work, because I think that's like the devil in the detail that I think a lot of this will hinge on in terms of the turnover. I have issues with the turnover model in itself, but particularly with the point of sale stuff. And I think when we're consulting on it, the businesses need real clarity about what you're asking and what you're offering and what you'll be asking of them to be able to answer that question. And I think a lot of my concerns about it, all those businesses will have their own point of sale system that they use, and either do their accounts themselves or have an accountant do it. Use whatever software, whatever EPOS system that they use, and they'll all be different. So all of those will then have to get training on the new system, will have to train their staff. With the larger businesses in there, like Prime Minister or Falafels, they will have their own one that their company works. So then, like, what's the impacts on them? And my concern is that obligating businesses into using this system just in this particular location could be a cost barrier in itself for lots of businesses. It could also strike fear into lots of businesses that are already there, and anybody considering going in might go, actually, do you know what, this is too much like hassle. Because if they do like they've had a market store elsewhere, or they've done something elsewhere, already have a system, have to start again from scratch. Thinking particularly from an equalities point of view, as a neurodiverse business owner myself, like the idea of having to reinvent all of my systems in order to get a different location might be a barrier too far. And I think when it comes to the consultation, we need to be really clear about what we're asking and offering, and be really clear on the equalities, I think, assessment for it.
Thank you. So I think that before perhaps bringing Jason in, it's important that the consultation exercise really describes how a turnover model might work in terms of from a transactions basis for the traders, so that it's clear to them how what information would be effectively captured by the electronic point of sale, what it means for them, what they might need to consider, so that informs better questions and better answers. But is there anything you want to add, Jason?
Sorry, no, I didn't have anything to add apart from what you've highlighted is really important to be considered further during the consultation exercise.
Okay, thank you. I've got another question as well, if that's all right, if I can get my mic to work. Has there been any consideration about, rather than doing a flat amount of cost, to think about it more in terms like you would for valuation assessment for business rates, where some stores are more valuable than others? So thinking about the glass arcade, that the ones on the corner are going to have more value and footfall than the ones in the middle, for example, and that think about building equity in that way.
So you will see in the redacted copy that the consultants provided a recommendation about the whole of the glass arcade in terms of a baseline fee, and then what the average turnover might be within the glass arcade as well.
Okay.
But there'll be different levels of baseline fee and turnover assumptions for other parts of the market where there are food businesses.
Just to add to that, what isn't redacted is the current fee structure in the market, which shows that there's already quite a differential in different parts of the market, and actually subject to the consultation, this is an opportunity to understand whether that's a proportionate approach actually.
It's really hard to ask questions about the exempt bit, isn't it? Yes, thank you.
I just, before I can bring Mark in, because he's next on my list, on that issue about how different traders might react to having, to adopt a new system, especially those that have units elsewhere in the city. So there's, at least two that I can think of on the top of my head that would fall into that category. Potentially that's something that could also be picked up with authorities where this has been introduced, as to what their experience is, and in terms of how they've managed the implementation of it for people either with diverse characteristics or their own systems that they may or may not, the systems may or may not speak to each other, and then they're effectively running two systems, and so there is obviously shared learning, I think, in that.
And there may be other ways of achieving the same result without going down that EPOS route necessarily as well.
Okay, thank you. Mark.
Thank you, Chair. The danger, of course, at this point of speaking is you're basically rephrasing and paraphrasing what everyone has said previously. I think Kai made some excellent points about the need to say, capitalise and sweat the entire market building and the asset there. I know we're talking just about traders now, but there is scope in that building we need to do. Night trading would be a good idea. I would suggest, if we're going to consult on that, though, you need a minimum number of traders to be open at any one time for it to work. So, for example, if 40% are interested, it's not worth our effort to open it that late because we incur our own costs. So, and people won't go because half the market is closed. So we need to be a bit careful about where we put it, but if we could do that, it'd be great. From my perspective, I think it's not unreasonable for the market to be fully funded. It needs to self-fund. I don't think it should be subsidised. I think that's where I would start on this. How we reach that, I'm fairly agnostic on. What I would suggest, though, is when we're doing the consultation with the traders, I know you're going to lay out the options and what they could do. Will there be a turnover or increase or anything else? I would suggest our consultation is more open with them and say, look, we need to raise this. These are ideas we've got to do it, but what else have you got? They might have their own ideas and own perspectives. There might be a compromise we've not looked at, because we're only looking really at flat increases or percentage turnovers, that they may be willing to work on and propose themselves. And I think if they're willing to work with us to reach where we want it to go, then we should be open to those kind of suggestions. So just when we're doing that consultation, if you could assure me today, be open. Let's see if we can get a trader forum, work with them and see what they come back to us with. But fundamentally on the 5% increase, yes, I'm for that. But just an open consultation, please.
Clearly, this is a quite a significant potential change for the council and the city, right in the heart of the city. So the consultation exercise. Ideally, we do it well first time. So I think suggestions like that are really helpful. We're very happy to do that.
Thank you, Mark. I have now Paula, Toby and Tom, and then I have a feeling that everybody else has spoken and maybe we should draw things to an end. But Paula.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for putting the paper together. I thought it was really well. It read really well, and I thought that it was really interesting, and it shows that the real knowledge and insight of the market. And I liked the idea of understanding how the glass arcade bit can maybe help to keep the entity of the whole market, because I agree with what Kai said. There is something very special there. But you can see that there's a lot of turnover in the glass arcade, and not that many people perhaps during the week go into the covered market or into the exchange. So I actually quite like this model, and I think the fact that you've done research in lots of other cities and that it's worked there, shows that it's a good place to start. And, we're talking a lot about the fact that this is going to be an open consultation. The question that I wanted to ask was, we have that truncated thing that we're actually voting on, which is the 5%, and then the second one, which is about the consultation. But in the paper on page 48, it's got the recommendations, and it's got about 9 or 10 of them. And I'd like to see that we're going to include all of them, because the stuff about the ring fencing and there's a lot of detail in those. So the question is, are we supporting all of those? And a proposal would be, further to what Jenny was saying, adding in something about security of tenure might be a sweetener for some of the traders there, because, as Kai was saying, a lot of people just are happy to stick with the status quo, and having security of tenure might be something for those. So an old soldier that I know once said that, it's a famous anecdote in the army, that no plan survives first contact with the enemy, but you do have to have a good plan before you go in. And I think that's where we're at today. We've got some, you've done all your benchmarking, we've got some options, you've got a preferred option, you're going to go out to consultation. So I'm happy with that. And if we're voting on all the other things about ring fencing the money so that we keep it to run those extra night markets and do the resourcing and help with the capital investment, it seems like a good deal to me.
Yeah, Mark.
On that issue, we're not voting on the page 49 recommendations, are we? Because that's
no. Those are the recommendations in the consultants' reports. So the immediate recommendations. However, they are all things that. Or mostly all things that would be part of a package if we were to go ahead and introduce the percentage fee in due course. But the immediate
those are the things that are going to be consulted on in the consultation.
Yeah, so the options from B1 onwards are effectively what the report says we could consider introducing subject to consultation. I think we've got some really good feedback today about what else could be included within the consultation exercise. So from B1 onwards, the paper isn't asking you to make a decision on those. This is the sort of stuff we'd like to go and consult.
Sorry, for clarity, Alex, I think the recommendations that Paula was referring to are the ones in the consultants' report, which had a long list of things, including the implementation of the fee model, but things like opening hours, potential of introducing evening markets actually was one of those things. So I think we have talked around all those points, and those are going to inform the consultation.
Yes.
So yes, I think the answer to your question is yes.
So I was just asking whether security of tenure could be considered as an extra thing in that. And then could you just show us again what we are actually voting on then, if it's the...
Yeah, I'll make sure I read it out again when we get to the footing, but I don't know, Amy, are you able to put on the display board?
Yes, I think we might be able to get that on screen now.
Okay, fine. In the meantime, I'm going to move on to Toby, who's been waiting patiently.
Thank you, Chair. I won't reiterate any of the good comments and questions from my colleagues. Just a quick technical question. Sorry if I missed the report, but when was the last time the fees were increased? and has it kept up with inflation over the last decade or so?
So the fees were last increased by 5% at the beginning of this financial year. And then for 2 years during COVID, they weren't increased at all, but generally they increase with inflation.
And does it come back to, well, obviously it wasn't the committee before, but in the future, would it be a committee decision each and every time? Or is there a kind of standard structure that we can build in for it to follow inflation if that was considered to be a good option?
So the fees and charges the council generally applies across its many activities are wrapped up in a single, I suppose, fees and charges report that goes to strategy and resources. I guess what we're talking about here is recommendation one of the report is about introducing a 5% increase, but then because of the opportunity to consult on something quite different, it's felt appropriate to bring it here, but ordinarily it would go through strategy and resources as general fees and charges.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and Tom, last word to you.
Just briefly, firstly, thank you for this report. I know a significant amount of work has gone into it, particularly from feedback from across the parties on this committee. So I just want to say thank you for that, and it's been really helpful and has led to a really thoughtful discussion here, I think, today. I'll be really interested to see how the consultation goes. I notice you're not just doing a survey, that you are going to do face-to-face engagement and also engagement with the National Market Traders Federation with an active branch in Bristol. Because I think it's that mixed methods approach as well will be really important. I think that more discursive opportunity can really lead to a much richer conversation than just going through and filling out questionnaires. So really advocate for that, and I'll be interested to see what level of engagement you get for that following the report. And let's make sure if there are some good ideas that come out of it, but we can't immediately do things with them, that we think about what we are going to do with them, where we can capture that, so we don't lose all the richness of that discussion.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, on that note, I think I'm going to move towards a vote. I want to thank the officers for your patience in answering all the questions, and to members for quite a wide and varied debate and discussion around the paper. It's been very interesting. I think the officers have things to take away as well if you vote it through when putting together that consultation exercise. I am minded to do just one vote on all three recommendations, unless anybody has any strong objections to that. To reiterate what we're being asked, it's one, to approve a 5% increase to be introduced from Q1 25-26. So that's across all three of the markets within St Nick's markets in the first instance. And then to authorise John and myself to take all steps required to proceed to consult with the traders on options to review the fee structures, including that potential to introduce a turnover model. And 3, to note that then a further report will be brought back to take account of the outcome of the consultation, assessment of implications, and to seek a decision on a future fee structure accordingly. So, can I ask for all those in favour to indicate?
Sorry to interrupt. Could I just get you to ask for a seconder as well, please?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, need to ask for a seconder. Jenny, I saw your hand first. So, all of those in favour, stick your hands back up again. Lovely. And that is yet another unanimous vote in the Economy and Skills Policy Committee. So, thank you, everyone, for that. That then concludes this meeting. So I'd like to thank you all for your attendance. Thank those who stayed around in the public gallery for their attendance. Wish everyone a Merry Christmas. It says down here, even though it doesn't quite seem Christmas yet. And we'll have a comfort break, and then we'll reconvene for our informal briefing that we've got scheduled in. So,
how long a break should we have, Chair?
Sorry? How long a break? That's a very good question, Fabian. Shall we say 10 minutes till about 15:15?